We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram. Let me check that. The Real Estate Movie Guy. Thanks for joining us, the Real Estate Movie Guy on Instagram. I hope you... Oh, look at that. There we go. Everything's working. Okay. Let's get rid of that banner. Welcome, everybody. August 28th, episode 268. Mornings with Scott live, the best damn business show for medium and small businesses on the planet. So, I don't know, just a little chat while we're waiting for people to join us today. But Libya oil is shut down. I haven't been to Libya in quite a while. I actually have some good stories about Libya in Egypt, but another day. Libya oil is shut down today. The central bank is shut down, and so they can't process payments, and they can't process payments because they're on the verge of civil war, and there's a coup going on in Libya. It's not hasn't broken into full military action yet, but it's getting really close. And so I think it's east and west. So the east government had the central banker was there, and the police came, and the military was coming, and there was an executive order to throw this guy the F out. And so he left, and then the west government came in, and the western central banker went in, coming in today, work today to the central bank, start all my inflation generating activities, but he didn't have the passwords. No passwords. So they can't pay anybody. They can't process oil payments. The entire country is shut down over a password issue. Look at hostile takeover 101 in business, but I also think in government coups, you got to get the passwords. You just got to get the passwords. That's a rookie mistake. No word on whether the new central banker, has figured out how to hit the forgot password tab, the link or not. Maybe they would just email them a new one. I'm not sure how that works there. So National Football League star brothers Jason and Travis Kelce have scored more than $100 million deal, $100 million with Amazon for their podcast, according to people familiar with the matter. Hello? Let me turn this phone off here. All right. Let's get down to it. Wall Street Journal article yesterday about long COVID. Among COVID's superlatives is the blow it dealt to people's career plans en masse. En masse is a fancy Latin word for basically everywhere, all over the place, everything. Never before have so many Americans redrawn their relationship with work as a result of one public health crisis. Excuse me. More than 4 years after the pandemic began, some are still reckoning with how to balance their livelihoods and life with long COVID, a chronic condition. People at the height of their careers in finance, technology, healthcare. This is a personal story to me. That's why I'm going to tell you this. I know, I find it interesting. Long COVID has pushed more than 1 million Americans out of the labor force. 1 million Americans. Economists estimate more than 5% of adults in the U.S. have long COVID. It's more prevalent among Americans in their prime working years. About 3.6 million people reported significantly modifying their activities. It's a chronic condition with symptoms lasting up at least 3 months, but it can go on for years. It's at least 3 months. And they include fatigue, changes in memory, shortness of breath, and trouble concentrating. Long COVID can make tasks as simple as responding to an email arduous. Yep. People with the condition say they struggle to summon the right words or manage stress. Yep. Among its many symptoms is post-exertional malaise. Yeah, basically, you just want to go to sleep. I think I'm still getting that. I think if I exercise for an hour, I just want to go sleep for an hour these days. I'll tell you my personal story on this in a second. So people can go to work or cannot go back to work or simply cut down the amount of work that they can handle. Researchers don't know anything. And then it tells about a story, and she's running a cafe, and she couldn't recall the orders that she had just taken. And also she couldn't remember her customers' names. And so she just had to shut down her business. So some of you that know me well, I went through exactly this. That's why this story hit me. And so I was out of commission a lot of the sort of mid to late 22 and a great deal of 23. And I can tell you, the doctors don't know anything. They can't even really diagnose it. This long COVID thing is just a made up word for something that happened during COVID that they haven't seen before, and they can't quite seem to figure out what to do about it. And those symptoms are true, man. You just can't. You just don't want to get off the couch. You can't deal with stress. You can't deal with talking to anybody. You can't remember things. Like, it's bad. It's bad. I was off work for quite a while and not managing things very well. And for me, it had a real consequence in business. Not just, well, I'm sure if you're in the middle of your career and you can't go to work anymore, that's a real consequence as well. But for me, I'm working on businesses that we owned in the portfolio at that time, and we got general managers. Turns out we're not doing the right things and losing millions and millions and millions of dollars of my money over stupidity and laziness. And so when I came back, it forced me into a recovery position, which started September 2023. I had to shut some things down, restructure the way we go about operations, and it's going great. It's been going great. It's been fantastic ever since. But if you ever wonder why I stopped doing the Winning Momentum podcast for about 9 months to a year there, well, that is why. The strangest thing I think you might find interesting, or I certainly did, is I went to bed August 31st, 30 days past, August 31st, 2023, feeling exactly the same. Just tired, malaise, couldn't remember things, foggy brain. And I woke up September 1, and I'm like, man, I feel great. And I felt great ever since. It was from 0 to 100. There was no sort of building up over time. It's a crazy story. And I've had a lot of people tell me that it was the vax. I took the first two. I didn't take any boosters. I needed the first two for the passports to do work and such, notwithstanding the guy last night who told me he was running a bunch of fake ones for people. I did not do that. I actually got them. And so I've had a lot of people send me books and articles and tell me that the condition was related to that, not to the vid itself. I am not suggesting that. I know this channel gets shadow banned for this discussion already, but I thought that was an interesting article. It is a real thing. I could confirm that myself. Have I told you how much I love playing with my artificial intelligence? ChatGPT is my go-to one. I use it for research, although it lies to you all the time, and you need to sort that out. I use it for texting. For reviewing text, writing text, editing text. I told you the other day about how I put a coaching client's confidential information memorandum, attached it to the GPT, and it immediately gave really value-added suggestions as to what to do with the CIM and sections that we're meeting. Like, hey, you didn't tell the investor it's missing. You didn't tell the investor an exit plan. You didn't really structure out what the investment was, how they get in, all this sort of stuff. And it was really value add. I love the AI. And it's hard to know where this technology is going because clearly it has been overblown, right? It's a bubble. And a lot of the new businesses are failing. VCs kind of getting out of that space. It's been overpromised. But, I'm old enough to remember when I went to university, there were no computers. Just to put this into context of how old I really am. So in business and finance, we didn't have any computers. When I graduated from university and I went to one of the largest accounting firms in the world, and I began auditing, because that's what you do when you become a CPA. You become an auditor, really some of the best training for business if you view it that way. It could be boring and grinding, but if you view it as a education, there's really nothing better. And so auditing some of the largest companies in the country and the world by hand. We didn't have computers. We didn't have spreadsheets. We had a pencil. We had some long paper with 4 holes in it for some reason, not 3 ring binders, but 4 ring binders. Remember those? So we had the long green paper. We had not the green shades, but the long green paper. We had an adding machine with a tape roll. And you learn tricks how to double check your manual adding, and a pencil. And that's how you did things. I remember all that. And then along came computers, along came spreadsheets, along came email. somewhere in my career, and all of these things were life-changing. They're absolutely life-changing. Like, how did I ever audit this company before without a spreadsheet? It doesn't even make sense. And quickly, like within the first month, you're like, holy shit, how did I ever do this job before? I can't even imagine that. And well, AI feels exactly that way to me. It's been overpromised. It's a bubble, but it's not going away because I don't know how I could go through my daily routine without it already. That happened really, really quickly for me. So if it's not going to go away, if it's going to just blow up in terms of demand and use, what that's going to do 100% for sure is it's going to put a huge demand on electricity consumption. Okay. And the electricity projections are growing very, very rapidly. Projections indicate that electricity demand for AI will significantly increase in coming years. AI-driven data centers are expected to consume between 250 to 500 terawatts by 2027. That's only 3 years from now, and up to 1,000 terawatts by 2030, potentially accounting for 2% of incremental demand in 2027 and 4% by 2030. Data center power demand is projected to grow to 160% by 2030, with AI contributing significantly to this increase. AI alone could account for 1.5% of global power consumption by 2029. The surge in demand presents challenges for energy infrastructure and sustainability efforts. So here's the bottom line. We need a ton of electricity, terawatts of electricity that we don't have worldwide. We don't have the generating power. We don't have the grid to handle the transportation and the batteries and the storage for this. And it flies. This whole demand for AI is competing head on with the climate change types that are looking to reduce consumption of power and to limit the ways that we generate power. So there is a conflict coming. And why are we talking about all this? Because I think as a business observer, as a investor, here's my hypothesis. Don't take financial advice from me, but here's my hypothesis that we need to keep a close eye on storage technologies, grid technologies, infrastructure companies, and nuclear energy, particularly Gen 3, Gen 4 technologies. And if you don't know what those are, they are 100% safe. There's zero chance of any meltdowns and bad things happen. And they produce a lot of electricity with zero emissions. And their only problem is that they suffer from bad branding. Wall Street Journal reports venture capitalists have gotten more caution about funding climate tech startups in recent years. But there are opportunities in several sectors such as battery storage and improving the electric grid, just as we talked about. Through June 30th this year, 2024, VCs invested $19 billion in climate tech deals globally, according to PitchBook, and globally that's down 18% from prior years. So the clean tech as a whole on the VC side is declining, and the article goes on to say that the reason for that is blah, 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 higher interest rates. But the real reason for it is there's no demand on the exits. When you're a VC, you say, oh, this is high growth. We can create value. And look at that. There's a robust initial public offering market. So 5 years from now, when we build this business, we can flip it out to the market at these multiples. And that's why this deal sort of makes sense. But if there's no IPO market, it's hard to do that math. It's hard to justify why you're jumping into this and hoping that the IPO market comes back so that you can sell your deal later on. And so that's why they're backing out of these clean technologies. But startups focus on the grid infrastructure raised $2.73 billion globally in the first 6 months. Again, according to PitchBook, quote, VC investments in electrical grid infrastructure is on pace to surpass all of last year's level of $4.37 billion. And much of the funding is going towards battery energy storage, new battery technology, and AI and software and hardware for grid management. Again, I think the future, if you're an investor or a business observer, one of the key things you need to look at, and if you want to play in AI, I think you need to look at battery storage, grid, and nuclear. Demand for electricity is surging, says the Wall Street Journal, thanks to growth in EVs, electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, which will require a massive amount of electricity for their data centers. Battery storage installations in the US, which were a little under 9 gigawatts last year, could be over 20 gigawatts by 2030, according to a prediction by energy firm Wood Mackenzie. All right, so enough of that. So that's what's going on with VC in the grid and battery investment area. Keep a close eye on that. This will be a continuing story. Wall Street Journal also reported yesterday. Headline is, can a closed nuclear plant from the 70s be brought back to life? Easy for me to say. I was out having a bunch of drinks with an AI guy last night and cigars, and so now I can't even pronounce words this morning. 53-year-old plants, this is in Michigan. There's a nuclear plant that's 53 years old, and they're going to restart it. Federal government and the state of Michigan are spending nearly $2 billion to restart the reactor on the shores of Lake Michigan when it reopens on the shores of Lake Michigan. Interesting. So this would not be the new Generation 3, Generation 4 nuclear plant. This is an old school nuclear plant. Interesting. So they seem to think that that's safe enough as well. When it reopens, the Palisades will become the first decommissioned nuclear plant anywhere in the world to be put back to work. So they shut it down. Nowhere in the world has it ever been restarted again. Driving the rethink, soaring demand for our electricity from AI server farms, check. And billions on offer in state and federal loans and tax subsidies for nuclear energy in infrastructure and green power investment programs. Data centers alone are projected to account for 8% of U.S. electricity demand by 2030, according to Goldman Sachs. So there's also been a revive that goes on to say understanding of nuclear as green power, that it has zero emissions. As I said earlier, it is part of the renewable energy categories such as wind, solar, and hydropower. So nuclear is now right in there. Last year, I never heard this before, but last year the state of Georgia fired up 2 brand new reactors at its Vogtle complex, aided in part by a $12 billion in federal loan guarantees. Earlier this year, Bill Gates, the former head of Microsoft, broke ground on a next-generation nuclear plant in Wyoming. So the Bill Gates plants, for sure, I think they're Generation 4, at least Generation 3, where there has never been a meltdown or a spill. I think the Generation 4 actually eats old nuclear waste as fuel. I think it's a pretty cool technology. I need to look into that, but I think that is pretty interesting. The utilities have asked regulators to extend the licenses of 14 aging reactors in the past year. Nearly all of the nation's 94 operating reactors have already had their licenses extended once to 60 years, and 2 of them have had them extended to 80 years. So the government appears to be, in the US at least, appears to be all over this this energy source of nuclear energy. I think that is terrific. And we need, as I said, as investors, to keep an eye on this and business observers. And by the way, if this is the Biden administration, which it looks like it might be, kudos, credit where credit is due. It's amazing to me that no one is competent enough in that administration to stand up in front of a camera and lay out for everyone, for the world, really, an energy plan along these lines. Because to be a leader in AI, you need the energy. To get the energy, you need the grid infrastructure, and you absolutely need nuclear as part of the deal. So keep an eye on that. Grid solutions, storage, nuclear, that is the way to invest and play in artificial intelligence. In my view, And I know we're short today, but I had a late night, and that's all of my prepared remarks. Any comments I need to respond to? Two Trick Al Dick. Really? Wow, a name from the past. How you doing, Al? Good to see you on Instagram. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. We will talk to you tomorrow, 8:30 Mountains, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thanks for listening. Hey, there's a link to my new business course in the notes. Go check that out. Pre-sale ends this week. After that, you're going to buy it. You're going to buy it in the end. We all know that. If you don't do it this week, you're going to pay more money. That's all. See you tomorrow, guys.